Lights in C4D, and in fact any 3D application, are quite unlike lights in the real world. They don't bounce, they don't lose intensity, and they don't cast shadows unless you tell them you need them to cast shadows and things like that. So let's look at how we can teach these lights to be smarter. You've got a default light in every C4D scene, and you can come to the options and just view that. And this is default lighting. Just right click, we can get that back to normal. It's all rather flat and boring, so lighting adds drama to your scene. It adds the character. It can make or break a 3D scene. So it's really important to get those ideas and fundamentals down, and that's what we're going to be looking at in this chapter. To actually view lights, we do have one in the scene, but we can't actually see the effects of it. We need to make sure we're in the ground shading mode. And now you can see that spotlight is illuminating our sphere. It's kind of doing it in a strange way. We turn on the interactive render region, and you can do that just by coming down all the way to here. And I've just dragged mine out a bit, so you might need to do the same. We can just move along. We can see, yep, still light's still shining. The light's still shining. It's still shining. You get the idea. It's not ever going to lose that intensity. Never going to decay like a normal light would. You can see that it's hitting this sphere, and the sphere just doesn't have a sense of place in 3D. You need shadows to give it that point of contact on the ground. So let's look at how we can turn some of these features on. And if we come over to the light, in the details, let's just first look at fall off. And you can choose any one of these you like, but this is the physically accurate one, inverse square. And you can see immediately in the viewport that that had an effect. And so now it's stronger where the light is and gradually falls off. So that's already helped out our lighting. You can then be sure of what your lights are doing. So now let's give this a sense of grounding by looking at shadows. So we go to the General tab, and we'll just turn on the first one, Shadow Map Soft. And immediately that's had an effect of giving the object a sense of place. You can see where it is on the ground. It looks altogether better. So if we just move this up, you can see there are some issues with shadows. This particular type of shadow, it's not particularly realistic. You'd expect it to fall off as well, a bit more than it does. And we'll look at that later on in this chapter. Another thing you can look at is how you would colorize your lights. And you can see here that this is just white, and really you'd probably want to add a different kind of color depending on the temperature of the light. And you can come over to the Kelvin colors here, and you can change the temperatures maybe to a warmer light or maybe something a bit cooler. So I tend to use Kelvins when I'm lighting and colorizing my lights. So just thought I'd point that out to you there. That's another thing you can do. So that was a brief look at the idiosyncrasies of lighting in C4D, and we're going to learn a bit more about that later in this chapter. So let's just continue.